Hello and welcome to my channel, Divine Disclosures. Today I have a short and sweet message from God about stupidity. Of all the things in the world that He wanted to talk to me about the other day, this is what He chose to speak to me on. So I opened up the Bible and immediately it was on Proverbs 12:1. And it says, "Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid." Now, I had prayed to God maybe a couple of times in my Christian life about stupidity, because I was under the impression that stupidity was a person who's incapable of learning, okay? And I was like, well, I don't know if God would create people who are incapable of learning. And so I never wanted to label anybody as such because I didn't think that that was possible. And I don't like to speak something over somebody. And so this is a word that doesn't enter my vocabulary very often. As a small child, we said this word all the time. Maybe it was to describe the way somebody was acting or an insult to another person that we didn't like. So I'm just going to use the example of name calling. Let's just say somebody calls you stupid, right? Normally, there's an authority figure around. There's a parent, there's a teacher, there's an older child who can correct the person who's doing the name calling, who's being abusive to other human beings, right? And then what happens is you can take that correction and learn from it, and then the next time you get angry or you don't like what somebody else is doing in this world, you make a decision. Am I going to continue on the path of name calling, be nice, to show love to somebody, even though we may not like how they're acting, or we may not like what clothes they're wearing, their appearance, the color of their skin, something like that. These are all reasons why children would call each other names. Now, the Lord was revealing to me, if the child does not learn, they choose to continue on their path of being destructive to other people with their words, trying to harm other people with their words, they haven't grown. Okay? It's kind of like going to school. You learn about a subject and then they give you a test. So what would the test be in this situation? The test would be the next time they come into contact with another person and their emotions get riled up, and how are they going to choose to deal with their emotions that are festering on the inside of themselves? Are they going to continue on the path of name calling? Okay? Now, if the child does not pass the test, they have not matured. They have not grown. They haven't taken the good advice to walk in another way. So the Lord was revealing to me, and He's done this for a few decades now, that when a child becomes a, quote, legal adult, a lot of them had been raised to believe that these things they learned as a 4 and 5-year-old, you can throw out the window now, okay? You'll see it in workplace gossip. People will call people names, they'll put them down, make fun of them, mock them, slander them. Things that we were taught as very, very small children are not appropriate behavior. And the Bible clearly states that none of these things are appropriate. This is abusive behavior, and He calls us to love one another, okay? So, in this situation, legal adults have chosen to regress, okay? They've chosen to go back to childish ways. And a lot of the time, it's because of the spirit of pride and the spirit of rebellion. These are two very powerful spirits that make people think that it's okay if you do something that is ungodly, that is not Christ-like. It's okay to reach a certain age, and then you can be abusive to other human beings. It's okay now. But if you really look at it, a lot of workplaces have a list of rules that you are supposed to follow. And some of them might include things like not lying, not making the workplace harder for other people. There's certain things you can and can't say to people. Certain things are considered harassment. And so even in the workplace as an adult, these things are supposed to be followed, right? And then when it comes to legal issues, you lie to a police officer, you're breaking the law. You're going to have some kind of consequence coming to you. And slander, if you slander somebody, you make up something off the top of your head and you think that your opinion, you are now allowed to voice as ultimate truth about another human being. If you can't prove that, that's called slander, and you can be fined for that. There is a consequence and a price to pay for slandering another human being. And so all of these things are laws, rules in the workplace as adults, but yet adults feel like they're allowed to do these things even though they're not. Okay? So even if one weren't a Christian, they're not interested in learning how to become Christ-like, they're still set under these rules. Because, like I said, the law and the workplace still implement these rules. And so back to the subject of stupidity. What is stupidity? Now, you may have noticed the picture is stupid is as stupid does. Now, it's a very famous quote from Forrest Gump. People thought that Forrest was stupid because he was a little bit more slow than other people. He acted completely different than they did. And so they labeled him as stupid. They name called, right? Or they would ask him, "Are you stupid?" or something. So he would say, "Stupid is as stupid does." And what that means is the only people who are stupid are the ones who act that way. And what the Lord revealed to me was this verse. Those who cannot accept correction are stupid. Okay? This is out of God's own mouth. If you have the tools, the instructions, the encouragement from other human beings to do the right thing, to take the right path, to choose a different lifestyle, a different manner of being, and you choose not to. You choose not to use the tools that are at your disposal. You choose not to take good advice. You choose not to change your habits and work on yourself. This is what God is saying is stupidity. These people he calls stupid because they choose not to self-improve. They choose to stay in rebellion and pride. Pride is a lying spirit. It lies to you. It makes you seem like you're a god. You're above all instruction and all law that God has formed this whole universe on. You're above it all. You can do whatever thou wilt. That sounds pretty familiar. I think I read that in the actual Satanic Bible. That you can do whatever you want. No, you can't. Not without consequences. So I would take the advice of God and heed instruction. Fix your behavior to become more Christ-like. Because otherwise, you're walking in stupidity. You're choosing of your own free will to never grow, to never mature. And so no matter how old you are, if you didn't learn your lessons at the age of 3, 4, and 5 to not do certain things that are immoral, you're stuck in arrested development. You haven't matured out of that mindset that you've had as a child. And so I encourage you to reflect upon your life. What are some areas that you have said, oh, this is a gray area. This is something I'm allowed to do as an adult. Another thing he wants me to mention about arrested development is when we don't listen to correction, we do not progress in life, whether it be in the physical realm or the spiritual realm, because everything happens in the spiritual realm first. If we are not correcting our behavior that the Lord has pointed out to us, either through conviction in our heart or another person has brought it to our attention that there's something that we're doing that's not walking in wisdom, good advice that people try to give us. If we don't surrender to correction, surrender to the fact that we are not a God, we are not above God, and we're not above God's laws, we're always going to be stuck in a spiritual prison. We're not going to level up. Okay? It's always going to be game over. He keeps bringing that to my mind a lot lately. It's, you got to try again. You got to fight the fight again. And you got to fight it until you succeed. Just like in a video game, if you give up, you never win. You can't win. How can you win if you give up? You may whine and cry and say, oh, it's too hard, I don't know how to do it, but the majority of people keep trying until they win. They don't give up. They want that sense of satisfaction. And God wants that for you too. He wants you to level up. He wants you to beat the game, so to speak. He has a plan for your life. He has blessings he wants to bring to you. He has opportunities for you to flow in your spiritual gifts and serve his people on this earth. But it all starts with purifying ourselves. It all starts with seeking what the Father's will is for us every day. So if we can't receive correction, we're always going to stay in that arrested state of mind. And so just pray and ask God, am I categorized as a person who's being stupid? Or am I walking in wisdom and intelligence and listening to correction when it comes my way? So that's the end of this message. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it blessed you, and have a wonderful day.